Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Peak and Pit podcast with me, your host, Diana. And it's just me, myself, and I today. I hope you're having such a beautiful day. I can't believe it's Tuesday again. I don't know. They spring up on you? Anyways, I've been starting my morning because I've told you guys before, we have a community gym in our neighborhood and it's closed for the next couple weeks. It's closed for like 3 weeks, basically all of May because they're redoing it. And so instead of going to the gym, I have been starting my day with a long walk through the neighborhood and then maybe like a little at home Pilates situation after that. And I've been doing the walk with a walking, what does she call it? She calls it an activation, I think, on the Superhuman app by Mimi Bouchard. And you guys know how I feel about meditation. I love it. I just feel like it like activates something in your brain. I don't feel like it's like a scientific fact. It actually does. But anyways, she created these things called activations because she was like, I hate sitting down. Like there's something about it that my brain just doesn't fully shut down every time that I do them. So I need to be cleaning or walking or driving or journaling or something while listening to these guided things. So she made this app. Anyways, sponsor me, please. Clearly, I'm doing a great job of selling it. But I just love them because instead of sitting and meditating at home in the morning, I've been getting up and getting outside. And they're onto something when they tell you that you should get outside first thing in the morning for that vitamin D. Mr. Huberman, you know what you're talking about. But I've just been loving it. And is it the fact that I love living in a warm place? Maybe. It could be. But anyways, that's how I started my day today, and it was just fabulous. And I hope you had a fabulous start to your morning because they're definitely not all like that. Yesterday I woke up as zombie as could be, and there was not a fountain of coffee in the world that could wake me up. And sometimes it'd be like that. But, anyways, we had such a nice weekend. It was just okay. Wait, fun fact about moving to Arizona, the desert, after growing up in Michigan, the land of lakes. We wanted to go find one of the lakes. There's like two or three lakes that are within an hour of where we live. So we wanted to go check one of them out this weekend. And you guys, we grew up, like I grew up on the lake. Tyler grew up, well, we both basically grew up equal distance to the lake. Like we could walk there. And so naturally, we're going to the beach all the time, growing up. And we're just used to lakes having sandy beach parks. That's just how it is where we are. So we had that in mind for this weekend. And come to find out, you need a boat for these lakes. So we're going to have to circle back to that and hopefully do that in the future. But it was just funny because we just assumed that we could go, like, just bring towels and lay out next to the water. And as far as we have researched, that just ain't a thing over here. But anyways, that's a future us thing. But let's get into the peaks and pits of the week, shall we? See, I wish that this was a back and forth conversation sometimes because sometimes I have no problem and I'm just yapping away for a full hour, but sometimes I just want a little back and forth. Like, what was your peak of the week? I would love to know what was your pit of the week. Maybe I should start doing that on my stories and just ask you the peak and pit of your week. That's a good idea. I think I'm going to do that this afternoon. So look out for it, or don't. That was so annoying that I just did that. I'm so sorry. Just cut that out. Pretend like I didn't do that. Anyways, my peak of the week. Actually, we're going to start with the pits because I like ending on a high. Is it the positive Polly in me? Probably, but let's do it. Okay, my pit of the week is that I had a full, we'll call it 36 hours last week, where those intrusive thoughts and basically feeling like you don't have control over your mind and the anxious thoughts that just dive right into your brain, it was so bad for at least 36 hours. And the only thing that brought me out of it was the fact that it started on Thursday. And so then by Friday, Tyler was home relatively early on Friday. and we decided to go out to dinner, and I had to physically remove myself from anything that I'd been used to doing. So, anything I was doing at home, whether I was working or cleaning or cooking, like nothing was bringing me out of it. Even going for a walk outside with those meditations, it was working during the meditation, but as soon as I turned it off, they were flooding right back, which is not exactly normal for me with those things. But it was just all consuming. And like, I couldn't think about anything. I couldn't concentrate on anything. I couldn't be creative. It was just so bad. And I don't know. I I have never experienced those types of feelings until I got married. And I don't know if it's I do think that the military lifestyle has a touch to do with that. I'm not blaming that on it. It's just it brought a lot more of those anxiety-inducing realities into my life that I think made my brain kind of like lose control. So now it applies that to other areas and then just kind of loses any sort of control that I used to have. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, but that was my pit, is that I had a full 12 hours of just not good, bad dreams, all of the terrible, terrible, terrible things. And then, of course, I try to talk to my sweet, lovely husband about it. We just have very different brains. We have different minds. That's just how it is. And he doesn't understand that, like, at all. He doesn't understand having those types of thoughts that you just can't get away from. And wow, what a beautiful brain that would be to live in, you know? That's really why he has the job that he does, and I have nothing close to that because just listening to him talk about like the emergency procedures that they practice all the time or they actually happen and he's just so calm doing them. I will say he's good at that at work. There's some things that he's not great at outside of work. But anyways, I just wish that he could like transfer those abilities into my brain during those times because he's like, you just need to stop thinking about it. You can't let those thoughts in. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so smart. Don't you think that I wish I could do that? Like I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I didn't wish I could do that. And okay, I saw a TikTok yesterday of this psychiatrist and she was saying that people don't want to be consoled with the meat of what they're saying or the topic of what they're saying. They want to be consoled in regards to the emotion of what they're saying. So I have found, and maybe we'll talk about this when he comes back on the podcast, which who knows when that's going to be, but he, and then I think this is really common for any like friend to friend, friend to parent, or, daughter to parent. Oh my God, words, wife to husband, like anything like that. This is often the problem when it comes to talking about your anxiousness or the things that are making you feel not yourself or not good. They talk to you about the content, and it's like I know the content is unrealistic. I know the content isn't necessarily the truth. It's the feeling that it's giving me, and you want to be consoled about the feeling, not the content. And I thought that that was such a good tip of like, hey, next time you're not communicating very well, remember that, are you responding to the feeling or are you responding to the content? Because most of the time, people need help with the feeling. And I thought that was so, so cool. And I sent it to Tyler and he said nothing about it. No, he really is great at trying to help me with that. He just doesn't get it sometimes. And I get that. Um must be nice, you know? Anyways, okay, that was my pit of the week. My peaks of the week. Okay. I have told you guys that when it comes to this home, I know exactly what I want. I have it in my head. I know the exact colors, the exact types of wood, and all of that when it comes to decorating this house. It's basically my Pinterest board. Like everything on Pinterest is what I want. And It literally doesn't exist. Like, I don't know where these people on Pinterest are getting their things because, you know, how even on Pinterest you can click like the pillow and normally it'll pop up or at least things similar. It has not been working. And for our master bedroom, I want it to feel, I don't know how else to explain it besides Nantucket summer, but that's how I want it to feel. I know. I think I talked about this last time. Like, people have something against, like, if you live in Arizona, they think that your house needs to be very deserty. And like I agree with that to an extent, but I just want this house to feel very homey. And I love the deserty vibe, but that's just not what's making me feel homey right now. What's making me feel homey is feeling like I live on Cape Cod in a little cottage with hydrangeas surrounding my house. And so I'm looking for this like Nantucket blue bedspread, pillows, blankets, like literally anything that's going to give me that vibe. And it was so discouraging because I could not find a dang thing, even though it's entirely my Pinterest board. Okay. Okay. I do have it on Do Not Disturb. And sweet Tylerina always texts me right in the middle of my podcast. Okay. Anyways, back to my bedspread. So, my mom actually found one on Macy's. They're having a huge sale, and she was like, "Look how pretty these are." Ordered it. It was literally exactly what I was looking for. It was perfect. It was the exact blue. It was blue and white, like flimsy. Is that the word? Whimsical flowers on this bedspread. And I was thinking with like mid colored wood nightstands, blue curtains, flowery vibe, just very classic and pretty. And it was called Light Blue and Cream. And in the photo, it was very much so white, even off white, with the most perfect blue. And it was so freaking pretty. And then it comes in the mail and it's quite literally blue and yellow. And I was so mad because it was so pretty. It was so soft. It had this pretty little delicate trim, just like the details were so pretty. And it was $250, which, you guys, if you've been looking at duvets, you know that's a really good price, especially for a king size bed. Um, and I was so sad because I feel like that keeps happening between my blue chair in the sunroom. Like, they look different online, then they come and you're like, "Oh, that's not what it looked like." But anyways, long story short, I'll wrap it up for you. I didn't. Tyler found the most perfect duvet set. It's blue flowers, whimsical ruffles, so freaking cute, from Love Shack Fancy. And when he told me it was from Love Shack Fancy, I was like, "Cool, in your dreams is going to be $2,000. Like, we're not doing that right now." 350, 345 to be exact, for a king size. And it's so pretty. It's exactly what I've been looking for. It hasn't come in yet, so knock on wood. Hopefully it holds up to what the pictures were, but I am so excited because then I feel like it slowly but surely half the home is sort of on its way to being done. But all that to say, don't give up on what you want. Just make your husband look for it. Anyway, so that was one of my peaks that I found like the perfect bedspread. And I know it's a silly peak, but it's the little things. We all know how I feel about the little things in life. Also, I got to FaceTime one of my friends who just moved to Japan, and we all know how hard that time difference is. So we got to chat for like an hour about her life in Japan and my life in Arizona now. And I don't know, catch ups with friends are just so special to me because with moving all the time, you guys get it. Like, your closest of closest friends, at least in the beginning, are maybe not in the same city as you or state or whatever. And it's nice to finally get to FaceTime with people who you feel really close with. Like, it's such a cool part of this life is how many amazing friends we get to meet, but it's just kind of sad because with living in different continents and time zones and all of this, talking can be tough. So that was a big peak for me. And also, we spent the entire weekend at the pool. Like, when I tell you guys, we've been working so dang hard on this house, and I feel like I have nothing to show for it because we've just been scouring the internet for everything that we want and, looking for paint colors that we want to do and making sure that the decor is like just what we want and finding the perfect thing for the perfect price. And we're taking our time with it, which I am so excited about because it's going to be very homey and exactly what we've been thinking about and dreaming about for the past year and a half. But it's just going so slowly. So this weekend, we were like, okay, we're not doing anything for the house because that's all we did last weekend. And we went to the pool, we worked out, we had breakfast. It was so nice. Like, if I could pick only one thing to do for the rest of my life, it would be to go to the pool. And it had me thinking, I want to bring back the Sabbath because, and maybe not bring it back. Like, it's just, well, you don't have to, I guess, if you don't want to, but I want to bring it back into my life. I actually don't feel like I've ever truly done a Sabbath, but I was reading about it a few months ago in the book the Ruthless and okay, that's a tongue twister. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. It's by a pastor, and he says that every Sunday, him and his family do literally nothing. And the point of the Sabbath is to not be productive at all, it's to rest and relax. So that means you're not getting groceries, you're not prepping food, you're not cleaning your house. You're just supposed to literally enjoy life, whether that's hanging out in the yard with your family, just going for walks, sleeping in, like whatever that is. And I feel like we need it. If God needed a day to rest, we need a day to rest. You know what I mean? And one of my friends, her and her husband, they turn their phones off at Saturday night on Saturday night, and they don't turn them back on until I think like Sunday night or Monday morning. And I think that's the coolest thing. And I think I want to bring it back. Not bring it back. I want to introduce it into my life. You know what I mean? You're picking up when I'm laying down. But I just think that's a really cool idea, you know? If you do this, please let me know and please let me know what your parameters are around it because I just think it's such a great idea. But that's hard for me because I enjoy prepping food and I enjoy going to the grocery store, but I do think there's something to be said. Like life is supposed to be enjoyed. And if we can't even take one doy, one day to simply enjoy, we're not doing it right, you know? And I guess maybe this day and age, it's like as long as you're enjoying most of the day and only some of it is productive, then that's fine. But I don't know. That's not the way he set it up, you know? It's not the way it's supposed to be. So I don't know. We'll see. I talked to Tyler about it and he was like, yeah, that's a great idea, but like work. And true, but you can check your schedule at a different time. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day. I say we pop right in to the topic of the day, which is 5 rules of a military wife, part 2. And I never say what the topic of the episode is until I get to the episode, but I feel like it's a moot point because you read the title of the episode, which is like clearly the topic, you know? So, anyways, that was just a squirrel thought that I had right there. But I've already done one episode and you guys loved it. So I'm bringing it back. We're going to try to make it a series, I think, if I can think of more. Um, 5 rules of the military wife. But the first episode, if you haven't listened to that, as soon as this one is done, go listen to that one because that one is more, what's the word? Maybe like logistical because it's more so about things you can actually do or things outside of yourself that help with the military lifestyle. And this one is a lot more about yourself and 5 rules for the military wife inside her own mind and body. So let's dive right in, shall we? I would also love to know what your rules are. Please let me know. Send me a message, whatever way of communication you would like to use. That sounds fabulous. But my number one rule for today's part 2 is to show up for yourself. So, one of my favorite inspirational thought leaders is Ed Milet. He has a podcast called The Ed Milet Show. If you've never listened to it, you have to. It's so good. I adore everything he has to say. But he has this famous quote of saying, when you're in the habit, okay, let me not stumble over my words when I say this. When you're in the habit of keeping promises you make with yourself, you're on the pathway to self confidence. And before he'd said that, I'd never really thought of it in that way. But applying it to my own life, it is so, so true. When you show up for yourself in the smallest of ways, I do see it translate into showing up for yourself in the bigger ways. So, big and small. I think this is so impactful. So, for example, like, let's start with a small example. So, you're trying to, let's do the habit stacking. A few episodes ago, we did a like Arizona Us habit stacking edition. And it's been going so well. So, one of mine, and this is like so embarrassing, but one of mine is that I'm a really bad flosser. I just don't think about it. It's always in my cupboard, and I just forget to do it. But it's my little thing of committing to myself to show up to myself show up for myself and do. And I feel like it's making me feel more confident that I can add more of these little things I've been wanting to do and actually follow through with myself. So I have been flossing every day, and I started to, like, all of those other habits we were talking about in that episode have gotten a lot more concrete in our lives as well because of those tiny little ones that we were doing. You know what I mean? So, like, if you start with the small one, then it gives you that self confidence to be like, oh, I can do something a little more challenging. I can do something a little more challenging, which translates in my mind to the military lifestyle of, say, for example, you also just moved to a new place. And unlike me right now at this phase in life, you're wanting to dive into a social community as soon as you possibly can. So, in order to do that, you tell yourself that you are going to go on at least 2 friend dates a week. And I think it's so easy to come up with excuses or tell yourself why you can't do that, whether it be because you're nervous to reach out to people, you're nervous to put yourself out there, maybe you're a little more introverted and it just sounds really intimidating to be out and trying to meet that many people every week. I think that the more that you do it and just show up for yourself and follow through, you're going to find those friends that love you for you. And little by little, the self confidence is just going to skyrocket. And say you do that, but then all of a sudden you realize that you're really passionate about military wives and supporting them. And then you want to join a group on base of helping military spouses to have higher employment rates or find better jobs that they're actually qualified for, because many military wives are under or overqualified for the jobs that they're working. And it just gives you the self-confidence to be like, okay, I did that. Let's try to tack on just a little bit. So, you know what I mean? I think that that's such a cool way of thinking about self-confidence, because I think that's one of the things that people ask, whether it be celebrities in interviews or influencers who are successful or people at work who seem to have it all together. When you ask what are your tips for self-confidence, it's not generally showing up for yourself. It's normally, don't care what people think. Um, get your mind right, meditate, read, all of those concrete things, which I also love those too. I just think it's a really cool way of both challenging yourself and working on your sense of self-identity and being the best version of you. So, number 1 is show up for yourself, whether it's the little things at home, like not going to bed with a dish in the sink, or applying to 5 jobs a week or something like that. Okay. Number 2 is prioritize yourself. So, last night on our walk, which is part of our habit stacking couples edition, pat me on the back. Thank you so much. We're doing great with it. I was telling Tyler my ideas for this part two rendition of Five Roles of a Military Wife. And I was talking about this one and I was like, do you think it's a good tip? And he was like, nah. Like, thank you so much for your input, asshole. No, but he did have input after, which I'm going to tell you what it is. But prioritize yourself. And what I mean by that is, my opinion is that even though okay, I guess I'm going to speak for myself. When I quote unquote signed up for this life and I married my husband, I conceptually knew what this lifestyle was. It's moving a lot, it's meeting new people, it's having instability. That didn't scare me at all. I was not deterred by that at all. It actually made me very excited. Um, but one of those things that sort of affected me a lot more than I anticipated back then was how much we actually give up. And I think in the military spouse community, it's sort of like taboo to talk about how much we give up. Um, from leaving careers if you have to leaving your family, leaving your friends, leaving everything, city that you grew up in. Doesn't really matter. We really do give up a lot. And I don't know, not to be that person that's like, don't cry me a river. Definitely don't. I love my life, but I have given up a lot. And so this tip of prioritizing yourself is a tip from me to me because it's something that I have been doing actually the past couple of months. So when we moved here, I've told you guys this. I've told you guys this. I really wanted to get back into the things that I love, which is cooking pretty extravagantly from scratch. I really wanted to be the person who makes her own bread. I wanted to be that person who has a perfectly curated cleaning schedule and I do it every day. I do what needs to be done that day. I have this home upkeep calendar of when, you know, air conditioning filters need to be changed or just all of those little things of being really organized. Like that's how I wanted to be when we moved back to America, just because our life was very different when we lived overseas and I loved it. But I wasn't that, normal home version of me, if that makes sense. Um, but I have found that in the past 2 months of living here, I have not done any of that. I've done it maybe twice, and I find that I don't know. I sort of overcommit myself and don't allow myself to do those things. But when we were talking about this tip last night, Tyler was saying, I think that one of your tips needs to be to learn how to say no. Since we give up so much and since we go with the flow so well, it's okay to say no every once in a while, especially if you're someone like me. Like, I hardly ever say no. Especially in our relationship, because I don't, unless I really, really am against something, I definitely will. But I just, I just go with the flow. I just do what needs to be done. And for the little things, it's like, you know, I don't know, if you're really wanting, if you haven't been home alone in a while and you're really wanting that and someone, I guess, invites you to do something, like it's okay to say no every now and then. Or if your husband is like, hey, we have this squadron event happening, like it's okay to say no. I think most of the time for those things we should not be saying no because that's where a lot of the beauty in this life comes from. But I do think that every now and then, when you feel really strongly about it, it's okay to say no and prioritize yourself, prioritize what you want and what you need. So for me, that's like, okay, I am going to prioritize making that bread that I want to do, and I'm going to prioritize making that cleaning schedule that I've been. Can you guys, if you're watching on the YouTube, this fly is literally tormenting me with its entire will for life. Like it has something against me and I'm going to cry. But anyways, yes, prioritize yourself. It's okay. Every now and then, you're not being selfish unless you're prioritizing yourself over everything all the time, then this is not a tip for you, but I don't think that that is the majority of the people who are listening. So, number 2, prioritize yourself. Number 3, you guys probably saw this coming. Actually, maybe not. Number 3 is treat your marriage like a business. And I know that sounds like so unsexy and so not romantic. And I totally, totally get that. But we did an episode, I'll have to go back and see what it was called and I'll link it, about everything that we have done in our marriage that we feel like has given us this strong sense of communication that we have built. And we even were talking about this a couple days ago, just how grateful that we are for the work and effort that we've put into our relationship and finding this communication style that really works for us. And for a second, we were like, well, maybe we really haven't lived that, challenging of a life. But as soon as you say that, you think of the things, it's like, no, we've had a lot of very difficult challenges, and this is something that we are allowed to be proud of. Um, and we've talked about it a lot, but one of the ways that has helped us to be like that is treating our marriage like a business. And it sounds crazy, but what I mean by that is sitting down on a regular basis together and checking in with each other. Like, are we headed down the same direction? Are we on the same road? Are we on the same pathway? Do we have different goals or desires for our relationship or our future together or our family together? Are we fulfilling each other's cups in the way that we need to? Are we loving the other person with the love language that they are wanting to be loved in? And just really getting down and dirty about, are we leveling up? Are we being who we said we would be or who we need to be for each other? And it's not in a combative way, it's in a very loving way. And of course, you're seeing this from a mile away, but one of my favorite ways to do that is with the marriage journal. So we have actually finished ours. We're thinking about getting another one and just restarting it because we love it so much. But the marriage journal is a weekly journal that you do together with a passage. It is Christian oriented. But it has a passage or like a topic for every week. So one might be respect, one might be, playfulness, one might be finances, whatever. And it has the same set of questions that it asks every single week. And it's the perfect blueprint for having these conversations together. And it has monthly questions that I think are absolute key. So if you're not sort of thinking about your marriage like a business yet, I would say start to do that, because in this lifestyle, communication is so, so key. And people say that all the time. And it's like, great. Yeah, thank you. I know that communication is important, but how do you actually do that? In our experience, this is how we do that. So, marriage journal, it's linked below. I do have a discount code. I think it's Diana10. You get 10% off. It's linked in the show notes, but that is one of my favorite ways to have good communication in this lifestyle. Okay, on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is say no to resentment. So, there are couples in my ether, in my world, that I know who don't even joke about the word divorce. It's not funny to them. It's not, said in a joking manner, like, oh, he's going to divorce me if I do that. And I really love that idea, because it's like we're not even allowing that word to enter into our world. So I think that it's a really great idea to do this for resentment. And that's not to say, I'm not saying that it's not easy to feel resentment in this lifestyle, because it is. And maybe when I was a young military spouse, I would have been like, no, it's not. Like, you just need to be better prepared. And looking back on younger me, she was quite naive, and that's fine. That's how, we young people are. But it is, do you see this fly? I'm gonna freaking, I need a fly swatter. I have to go to I'm gonna Amazon fly swatter to my house immediately after this. But anyways, It is easy to feel resentment in this lifestyle. There are a lot of opportunities for it. And I think that we need to not even allow that word or that feeling to be a possibility in our life. Because if you do, then you're going to succumb to it eventually, And have I felt it before? Yeah, sure, of course. But doing your best to not even allow that into your world. And the minute you start to see it or feel it, be like, I am choosing to not let that affect me or be a part of my life at all. I'm choosing different. I'm choosing something different. I'm going to show up for myself, like I said, prioritize myself, and do what needs to be done to make this resentment go away. And like I said, I know that that is quite difficult, and I would say that I don't want this to sound like I'm on a high horse, like at all. Absolutely not. But if you are feeling resentment, I do sort of feel like going back to the previous tip of treating your marriage like a business and having those deep communication conversations, that those feelings should be brought up there so that the other person is aware and action steps can be, you know, thought of together. And if the resentment is coming from something that's like, I don't know, just the first example that's coming to mind for me is that you had to move somewhere where you couldn't keep your job that you loved, and now you don't have your job and you're feeling resentful. That is totally, totally, totally valid. And okay, so that's where we're at. Great. What's going to make that feel better? Because this is where we live now. And also understanding that both people in the relationship are doing what they think is best for the family, for the relationship. It's not always easy decisions, Like I we have to remember, I tell myself this a lot, that the active duty member doesn't always love the things that they have to do either. They don't love being gone for so long. They don't love putting the burden of a lot of things at home on you, but they're doing what they feel is best for the family. And I think that having that understanding between each other is also really helpful. So, keeping that in mind, like, okay, this is what the situation is right now. We're doing what he thinks is best. And, we're in this together. So, that probably is what is best for our family right now. What do I need to do to make that resentment go away and feel more excited about where my life is right now? Or, is it taking advantage of the not having a job? Is it traveling more? Is it finding a new job that's even better than your old one? Like, is it going back to school? Like, there's so many options. We just need to open ourselves up to the idea that, everything is figure outable. It just takes a few conversations, and it's probably not going to happen overnight. It might take days, weeks, months. That's fine. Um, but I think it's the effort that is helpful. It's like the showing up for yourself. Like I said, when you put in the effort, it just shows yourself like, oh, I can figure this out. I can do this. I can make the most of this. So that's what I would say. Say no to resentment. And number 5, last but not least, why did I even start a podcast? Last but not least, excuse me? Sometimes it's just, I don't get it. And these aren't even my first words of the day. Taylor was home for a bit this morning. I talked. Anyways, number 5 is to be open to flexibility in your life. I am the queen bee of loving a plan. I love to know what's going on in my life. I love to know what's happening today, tomorrow, next weekend. I love to know exactly what and how something is going to happen. But I think one of my greatest skills that this lifestyle has given me is my ability to be more flexible and have the idea in my brain of like, this is how it's going to go as far as I know right now, but this could happen and this could happen. And just being open to those ideas and working on your flexibility muscle. And I'm like, I wish I had more tangible tips for how to do that, but I don't know. I think it really just starts in your mind of like, I guess one of the things that I do is I think about the different scenarios that could happen, and I think about the way that I would make the most out of each of those scenarios so that no matter which one happens, I have a route that I know is going to make me happy. Whether it's the thing that was exactly what I wanted or not, I at least have thought of things that are going to make me happy if the less good one happens. You know what I mean? Just being open to flexibility. And that's not to say that you're never going to feel disappointed or you're never going to feel, sad or whatever. It's just being open to the fact that things might not go exactly the way that you want. And one of the ways that I think that this has been most apparent for me in the past is just, for example, like TDYs when they're gone. It's like, okay, so he's coming home on Saturday, but he might not come home till next Saturday. And even though I desperately do not want that to happen, if that would happen, this is what I'm going to do to make the week go by. And as silly as it sounds, like a lot of the times, those worst case scenarios never even happened. And I don't know, is it kind of crazy to say that maybe it's because I was just open to any of them? Maybe that's crazy to say. But also, I think I spared myself a lot of the internal turmoil of the worst case scenario happening because I had that, positive poly outlook of the worst case scenario, if that makes sense. Just practicing day by day, little by little, being a little bit more flexible in your life. Okay. Those were the 5 tips of the day, and it's time for the value of the week. Also, I would love to hear more of your tips. I'm sure you guys have plenty that I haven't said, so please let me know what they are. Also, if you haven't given this a rating or review or sent it to a friend, I would really, really appreciate it. That's what tells, Spotify, Apple, that you like to, you like listening to my podcast and that it should show my episodes to more people. So if you haven't done that, please do. I love you so much. But it's time for the value of the week. When I tell you that I'm so flabbergasted of why we don't talk about Trader Joe's more in the community, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's so good. The fact that nearly everything is healthy, like most of their meat is grass fed, no hormones, no antibiotics, organic, the produce organic. If you look at even like a lot of the snacks where the ingredients list could be so long, they're not. It's not. So you'd think it'd be really expensive. You guys, on Sunday, we went to Fry's, which is the local, like, main grocery store here. We got a box of Zevia, my favorite healthier for you soda. We got a box of canned margaritas, and we got groceries for one dinner. One dinner. And it was $94. That is asinine. Then, yesterday, I went to Trader Joe's and I got 4 nights worth of dinners, a couple other staples, a couple snacks. Drum roll, please. $95. That is outrageous. I'm never going to Fry's again. Like, also, it's just so good. And they have so many different things that you can try. And like, their pre made meals are so good. And I just love it. If you haven't been to Trader Joe's in a minute, you got to go back. Like, Whole Foods is great and everything, but Trader Joe's is better. You heard it here first. Anyways, I hope you're having such a fabulous day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I would love to hear what you thought. Please let me know. Please let me know what you want to hear more of, who you want to hear on the podcast, all that good stuff. Yeah, I hope you have such a wonderful week, and I'll talk to you. Okay, I'm over myself. I'll talk to you next week. Love ya. Bye.